Hello, my name is Ashley Boston, and I am a strategic communications major pursuing my master's. Have my bachelor's in theater arts. Um, my premise is relation slips, taking that subject as my central going off of the theory identity management, which basically tells us how or teaches us and gives us a theory of how we need to maintain our relationships and how they evolve over time. I think relation slips is a very real issue in today's society and time. Uh, Many people don't realize that it's even a problem before it is a problem, with the divorce rate being so high, and not even in man and women relationships between parent and child, our friendships, those relationships, work relationships, in all areas. This relation slip or slips is a very real issue. But asking questions like, who am I? Whose am I? What do my relationships say about me? I think in answering those questions, we get out of the mindset that we are alone. I do this myself. I have no one. I can only depend on me. No one else is responsible for my life. I determine how it happens, when it happens, and the successes, the failures is all on my shoulders alone. When we answer these questions of who am I, whose am I, what do my relationships say about me, what is my purpose, we can leave that type of mindset. Littlejohn and Faust asks, who are we and what is the nature of our relationships? Basically, the same thing. These are very real questions, and it helps us to determine, you know, who we are, whose we are, the relationships around us, whether it's with our siblings, with our children, with our husband or our wife, our best friends, our colleagues, whoever it may be, complete strangers, associates. We begin to find out how to make the relational groundwork, how we can make the foundation for every relationship we'll ever have in our life, whether that's personal, just very associate based, very occasional interaction, whatever type of relationship, the groundwork is the same. Um, Littlejohn and Foss also talk about the autonomy and freedom aspect. We've gotten away from taking people's word for things. We feel like everyone is dishonest or just disingenuous when, a lot of times they could be, but sometimes they aren't. They're giving us who they are at that time, and because we have this warped view of the world and this warped view of people, we no longer take it to be honesty, and it kills our relation. It literally kills and deadens our relationships. Um, and this is where those slips come into play. Now, recently moved here to Georgia and started going to this church at Chapel Hill, where the pastor is Dave Divine. And I feel like God allows things to happen at a certain time, put you in a certain place for you to be moved by something, to be taught something, to just take something in. Excuse me. His current message series, which ended today, was relation slips and finding tractions where our relationships slip. And he talked about man and woman. He talked about our friendships. He talked about how we allow others to influence us and how we maintain those relationships and set boundaries and limitations and set parameters for them so that they are successful and that we get what we need from them and that we are able to give what the people who are engaging in these relationships with us need from us. Talking about Ottman's and colleagues, the openness and closeness factor, and setting the rhythm for relationships and how you have to nurture them and maintain them for them to be successful and for them to have longevity. We've gotten away from sowing into ourselves and speaking into ourselves and gotten away from affirmations of our power and of our strength and of the people that we place in our space, allow in our space and allow to be a part of our lives, and how we don't understand that certain people that we allow in take from our power and drain us, literally just soak up all of that goodness or that just juice, if you will, from us, that we have nothing left, or what is left isn't good. And just how in this case breaking the cycle is not a good thing. Once we've set a cycle of good relationships, we know we've been in relationships that work, that are powerful, that are good for us. But then we are tempted by something that looks good and looks like it's better, but it's really not. So in this case, we have to understand that breaking the cycle can and is a bad thing in this instance. The mass truths, Purdon and she basically gave, he basically gave these translations, if you will, like, that's a nice color on you, in reference to a woman wearing a dress. But the actual translation for that is, she looks fat in that dress, so I'm not going to compliment the fit or the size. I compliment the color, which is totally unrelated to how the dress fits or looks on her. And that's breaking it down to one of the most simplest forms of it. But we've gotten so used to not being politically correct that honesty is looked at as a bad thing. Now, I do believe there is a difference in being honest and just being plain out rude. But then, am I contradicting myself when I say that we've got excuse, excuse me, I'm getting over bronchitis. When we get used to, telling people what they want to hear or what we feel like they need to hear versus what we honestly feel, I think there's 3 mirrors in life that we look through. One is the mirror, which has the reflection of what we show the world. One mirror has the reflection of what we show our friends and our family, the people whose opinions count and matter to us. And then one has the reflection of who we truly are. Now, sometimes we like that person, we like that reflection, and other times we don't, which is why the reflection in those other 2 mirrors might differ than the one that has a reflection of what we see looking back at us. Flight due to fear. I think we run from who we are. And sometimes if we don't like the person that we are, we don't like the relationships that we're in, we run, those slips happen. But the problem is when you're running and allowing those slips to keep reoccurring in your life, no resolution is being found. So it's a never-ending cycle of relation slips. I think a big cause of it is striving for this intangible standard of what society says we should be, who society says we should entertain and allow to influence us, and being in the know type of crowds. Going back to this warped view of the world and of people, and just never believing that I am good enough. The danger of the perception of who you are And basically what my generation, or maybe the generation that came after me, calls a facade, or the fakeness that we give off to the world, is not our true identity, but that's the one that we feel is going to get the response that we desire. And that response may be popularity, love. We're all seeking something in our relationships. But if we don't find out who the people are that we should seek those desires from, then we slip. Uh the false identity is what we feel. If we portray this and if we give off this perception, then we'll get what we need back. It's not always the case, though. Uh, the illusion of I am this way, I am popular, I love myself, I'm happy, I'm good, but we really aren't. I think has a lot to do with, say, suicide rates and just a lot of bad that's going on in the world today is due to simple things that, left unattended, have just become such large problems and such large burdens, and big things that now are out of control, and we're trying to fight and figure out how to fix it. But we've let it go, unnoticed and ignored it for so long that what do we do? And I think that goes to the power from within. In my paper, I quoted a story of a police officer who was big and strong and was confident in himself and knew he was a strong, good police officer, and goes up to this car, and the man shoots him, and he falls to the ground. The police officer is hysterical and thinks he's dying, is just totally losing it. When actuality, the man did not shoot him. He wasn't bleeding. All of these things, we wear this mask for so long of who we think the world wants to see of us, that version of us, of who we think the version of us that is going to get us these things we desire, whether they're good or bad. We wear that mask for so long that we forget that's not who we truly are. So when we're in a situation that calls for that person that people think we are, but we can't deliver that because we've forgotten that that's not who we really are, it can be detrimental. Or not even detrimental in the sense that we actually die, but we could be dying inside, emotionally dead, spiritually dead. I think what we have to understand is that those who matter respond, meaning that anybody in our lives that doesn't like who we are, I think we can determine one or two things. That they don't like who we are because we actually need a change. Or they don't like who we are because they don't like who they are themselves, and they are responding to the truth in you. And if they don't have the truth in them, then you aren't gonna mix well. We have to be our true selves, who God has called us to be, or whoever we worship, whoever we believe in, even if you don't believe in anything, just to have an affirmation or a belief or just a mantra or a quote that we can live by, just to have hope, I think, for anybody, regardless of that belief system, is a very, very powerful thing. Our very first mirror is our parents. Pretty much. They see who we are before we even are who we are. They see the process of us getting to that person and coming into that person. It all starts with the company we keep, the environment, the people around us, the people we allow into our space, that push and pull from our text, and just being able to adapt to it and not fight it, because we need that so that we can achieve that true identity of who we really are, who we've been called to be. We have to recognize the obstacle. We have to recognize the slip before we actually slip. Um, Fine tuning our true identities and just being happy with where we are, who we are in that moment, but knowing that if we don't like it or if we feel there's improvement, which there usually is room for improvement, that we can get there. um, and just trusting in that inner voice, that inner peace. And if you don't have it, seek it. Figure out what you need to do to find it. I hope you've been blessed by this presentation and this video. And I truly did my best with all the obstacles that have been in my way. And I just thank God for this, and I thank God for you all. God bless, and thank you so much.